Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. you know, this time we're diving into some pretty heady material from booktoda.daxagetz.pdf, pages 381 through 391 to be exact.
Yeah, those pages are dense.
Yeah, dense is a good word for it. We'll try to break it down together for you today.
Absolutely.
Focusing on, well, you shared these pages with us with a particular interest in toxicity. So let's get into it. What are some of the key things that stood out to you when you first looked at this section?
Well, right off the bat, you can't miss the emphasis on XXII, especially how it connects with XXII. They're described as a higher and uniquely real cosmic divine binary, and as higher syntheses.
Okay, so right away we're in the realm of higher concepts, a binary being like a fundamental pair and a higher synthesis bringing things together. What exactly is being synthesized here? What's the text saying about that?
Well, if we look at how the text describes XXII, it's the teaching of Brahman's self-contemplation in its unity and its affirmation through individual volitional centers. It's synthesizing the first 10 Sephirotic arcanes of the sacred book of Thoth.
So essentially how the underlying blueprint of reality, the unity, relates to how we experience the world through consciousness.
Exactly.
The first 10 Sephirotic arcanes being synthesized into Akyai. What's the significance there?
Well, the text really emphasizes that those first 10 arcanes, they represent the entire cosmogony of the universal spirit. They're interconnected facets of Brahman self-awareness as it relates to unity, and how that unity is affirmed through individual centers of will.
It's fascinating how it lays it out like that.
It is.
It's like a blueprint, and each of these arcanes is a specific instruction.
It's like a multifaceted expression of a single underlying principle.
Yeah.
And each of these aspects are considered part of Akyai, with Brahman encompassing the entire sequence of cosmic forces or teachings that those 10 arcanes represent.
So it's not just that they're related, it's that they are literally expressions of that overarching concept.
Exactly. So we see this unified, self-aware reality expressing itself through these diverse yet interconnected aspects.
Okay, so that's the foundation. Then we have Atuk described as the teaching of Brahman's self-contemplation in his dream of phenomenal nature and self-affirmation through the totality of individual dreams, synthesizing the second set of 10 arcanes.
Right, and there's a clear shift here.
So the first 10 in Attaparai are focused on this underlying unity and its affirmation through individual will. The second 10 leading to Amodara seem to delve into the realm of phenomenal nature, the world as we perceive it.
Exactly. So now we're looking at the life of the universal spirit through this self-contemplation within the totality of individual dreams. Again, interconnectedness and mutual affirmation, but now within the context of our experience reality.
It's like zooming in a level.
In a way.
From the blueprint to the actual construction.
Yeah. And again, Brahman is presented as encompassing the chain of cosmic agents related to these teachings.
So the source of both the unity and its manifestation.
Right.
So what is the core distinction the text makes between XCA and XC2 then?
The text is really explicit about this. It says XCHE is Brahman's self-contemplation of reality in its revealed binaries.
The inherent dualities or pairs of opposites.
Right. And then XET is about self-contemplation within the consciousness of the manifested world.
So it's like a shift in perspective.
Yeah, it's the divine looking at itself through the lens of everything that has come into being through this dream.
Through the lens of the manifested world.
Exactly. It even reiterates that XEOA is the teaching of the divine turner, further emphasizing this foundational unity.
Okay, so one focused on the structure, the other on experience. And then we have cognition or knowledge. How is that being explored in relation to these arcanes?
What's really fascinating is the text says that both the impersonal environment of FCA and the pure spirit of XEI are inaccessible to Isvat.
So beyond our direct cognitive grasp?
Right. But it also says that they can be eternally akroloi.
So known or experienced in some way.
It seems to suggest there are limits to our usual ways of knowing when it comes to these ultimate realities.
Does it offer any hints about how we might eternally faces these things?
Not explicitly in these pages, but the emphasis on eternal is does point towards a way of knowing beyond the purely rational or intellectual.
Something more continuous and experiential.
Right. Aligning with that idea of Brahman's ongoing self-contemplation.
Okay, so our usual understanding has limits. And then the text moves into talking about lower levels of reality where multiplicity and numbers approach infinity. How does that fit into all of this?
Well, connecting it back to the idea of the dream, it seems to be saying that as reality manifests into increasingly complex forms, represented by this approach to infinity, the underlying rational essence or fundamental intelligibility becomes diluted.
It gets lost in the details.
In a way, yeah, to our usual least.
So the more we delve into the specifics, the more the unity fades from view.
Exactly. And the text even brings up Porphyry's concept of the absence of all being and Plotinus's poetic image of darkness.
So this extreme multiplicity can almost be seen as a kind of non-being from a higher perspective.
Right. It resonates with the idea of Maya, the illusion of separateness.
It's fascinating how these different philosophical perspectives converge.
It really is.
Yeah.
And then the text shifts to discuss when and its relationship to all of this.
The teaching of the world absolute.
Yeah. The ultimate source.
The source from which even Brahman's self-contemplation and the dream emanate.
Right. And it emphasizes that this isn't something we can grasp with our usual reason. It's transcendental doctrines beyond the principle of reason.
So how does the text even attempt to describe it?
Through what it calls extreme contradictions in its hieroglyph. It's pointing to something that precedes and transcends our logical frameworks.
The source of the dream itself. So what about that imagery of the traveler on the edge of the cliff? What do you make of that in relation to all of this?
It's such a potent image. The text leaves it open to interpretation.
Is it the end of a journey or the beginning?
Right. Are they about to fall, or have they already transcended something? Are those tattered clothes a sign of renunciation or just happenstance?
And that gaze towards the abyss. Madness or mastery?
It's like it's reflecting the paradoxical nature of the absolute itself. It could represent both the potential for manifestation and detachment from it.
Okay. And then there are those magician's attributes in the sack, the sword, cup, and sickle.
Right. Tools of creation and transformation.
Even at the level of the absolute, the potential for the creation we see in the dream exists.
It's inherent in the very ground of being.
So we have this ultimate source capable of both creating and transcending the dream. And then the text explains how Oz encompasses 103rd. What is it saying about the inner self-consciousness of the divinity?
Right. Logikavin is the teaching of that inner self-consciousness of the divinity. The Great Mother, Isis, the world first cause, the supreme Prakriti.
The beginning of consciousness.
Yeah, the genesis of universal reason. And the text says this self-consciousness arises through opposition.
Through the creation of the binary principle.
Exactly. That fundamental duality upon which the dream is based.
So is Geo then that undifferentiated consciousness before this division?
That's how it seems to be presented. It's the affirmation of the spirit's self-consciousness through this very act of division.
So the absolute is both the unity and the source of its differentiation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the text describes it as a Brahman dreaming of the possibility of individual qualities, of opposing them, and dreaming of these binary vortices as changing reflections of his singular aspects.
And this connects to the BIOB, the beginning of reason, doesn't it?
It does. Brahman's dream, giving birth to binars, leads to that hera, and then its division into IOA and have our reason.
Great and small reason.
Yes, and the text is very specific about the difference.
So divine reason is inherent in the structure of the dream itself. It manifests in those antinomies we encounter.
Exactly. And small reason is how we operate within the dream. It's our tool for navigating this reality.
It's what allows us to make sense of those binars.
Right. And the text says that divine reason is at that level of the absolute, while small reason provides the means for Ada within the dream.
So it's the difference between the source of knowledge and the process of knowing.
Yeah, it prepares the possibility for understanding by turning ignorabimus into ignoramus.
From we shall not know to we do not know, opening up that potential for greater awareness.
Exactly. So divine reason is both the goal and the essence of an Ada within the dream.
Okay, that's a really clear way to put it. And then we have on third, the third hypostasis of God. How does that fit in?
ED is the teaching of that third hypostasis of God, the divine nature reflecting the one spirit in its cosmic being, world universality, and inner self-contemplation.
So all of this within the dream.
Right. It's the world of archetypes, the world of truth imprinted on the tablets of eternal universal expanse, the world of the immovable verb.
The perfect forms.
Yes. And its supreme doctrine is that everything in the world of time is just a reflection of this real world.
So the dream is a reflection of this higher reality.
Exactly.
A reflection of that world of archetypes.
Precisely.
And how does this connect back to zero?
Well, Yua represents the being of the world as this dream. Each aspect of Brahman is given the illusion of independent being.
So even though everything is ultimately unified, we experience it as separate.
And then within each private dream, Brahman contemplates the totality of all others, this self-contemplation in the whole.
So it's not just that we are each dreaming, but that the divine is experiencing itself through all of our individual perspectives.
It's a beautiful and complex idea.
And this leads to the birth of essentia and existentia principles.
Right. Within this aspect of Brahman's self-consciousness, the principles of essence and existence arise. And at their boundary, we have divina natura and partis generatio.
Both operating within the dream.
Yes. Divina natura is that reflection of divina essentia gnosis. Brahman's self-consciousness in the aspect of the totality of potential being, of private logosis, connected by the universality of mutual reflections and the unity of order by degree of spirituality.
So the potential for individual beings within the dream.
Exactly.
Of partis generatio.
Partis generatio is the reflection of Brahman's self-consciousness in the aspect of the totality of ultimate differential manifestations potentially contained in singular private logosis, motionless in readiness for self-affirmation.
It's the potential for those beings to become manifest.
Exactly. And this is all still within that aspect, Azana.
The initial arising of duality within the dream.
Right.
So just to be clear, in relation to Brahman's essence as the dreamer, his self-consciousness in this aspect is divina natura, the overarching potential.
Yeah.
And in relation to the totality of manifestations, it is their partis generatio, the bringing forth of those potentials.
Exactly. And it concludes that this aspect of Brahman self-consciousness is the source of procreation within the dream.
The origin of all that we see.
In this aspect, Brahman is the cosmic logos, the totality of archetypes, the world of self-conscious truth, the higher world whose reflection is our universe.
So we've seen how Partis Vels is positioned as a synthesis related to Brahman's self-contemplation of the manifested world, this dream.
And how that dream is rooted in the principles of XXII and ultimately originates from,
with Arcana 3 providing the framework for understanding its structure.
And crucially, that while the impersonal environment of Arcana is our experienced reality, its ultimate nature, like the pure spirit of XY, remains beyond our direct grasp.
Yet open to experiencing and knowing within the context of that experience.
Right, it's a very subtle point.
It is. These pages offer a complex perspective on the nature of reality. Seeing the world as a kind of divine dream.
With these layers of interconnected principles, and a source that transcends our usual understanding.
It definitely invites deeper contemplation.
It does. And considering this description of Brahman's dream in relation to who's whose, how might this shift your understanding of the nature of your own reality?
What does it mean to experience the world knowing it's all part of this cosmic dream?
And how does this framework shape the relationship between your consciousness as the observer and the world you observe?
It's a lot to think about.
It is.
Thank you for walking us through all of this.
You're welcome.
It's been a fascinating deep dive.
It has.
And we'll continue to explore these ideas in future episodes.
Absolutely.
Until then, thanks for listening.
Thanks, everyone.